Hey fellow babies, welcome back to the Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. If you're watching on SIFTD and you're a Patreon patron, thank you so much. If you aren't and you're watching on YouTube, at a minimum, two things. Follow me on Twitter, please, at Michael Pachter. Follow Shane at Dimfire. Follow SIFTD at SIFTD Games. Then you won't miss any Pack lovin'. And please link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. Instructions below, super easy to do. That pays us $2.50 a month and costs you $0. So it really just costs you a minute and a half, 2 minutes of your time once. Please do it. That keeps us afloat and we can keep doing these shows. Let's get to our first question from SIFTD from Rewind Replay. Can you explain why CEOs and executives get to keep their bonuses and massive salaries when companies don't attain expected profits? Shouldn't they share some of the burden? Why are low-wage workers always the one to pay with downsizing and layoffs? So look, when a company misses, EA missed, and so EA is actually a better example. Though they haven't yet declared their profits, their bonuses, but EA management's not getting bonuses this year. They missed. They guided to $4.50. They're doing $3.85. They may end up limping to $4, $4.10. They're not going to make $4.50, and so those guys aren't getting bonuses. Period. On Activision, they made their bonuses, and I think you're kind of, obviously I get why you're doing it. You're confusing profits with profitability. And keep in mind that all these companies, Activision in particular, is a consolidation of a whole bunch of different games and businesses. So Blizzard as a studio has, I don't even know, World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, Overwatch, StarCraft, Diablo. So at least 6 different franchises that continue to persist. They have a persistent revenue stream. And some of those things don't hit. And when they don't work, like Heroes of the Dorm didn't work, you probably don't need as many employees working on Heroes of the Dorm. When you have Activision Publishing, Call of Duty and Destiny, remember when they had Skylanders? So unfortunately, it's ebb and flow. And a perfect company is going to forecast perfectly, and they're going to always have the right number of people working on the right franchises. Everybody's going to be productive. Everybody's going to throw off, profit. The business model here is, if a company pays you $100,000, they better make $100,000 off of you. They better have, before paying you, $100,000 of profit, or it isn't worth keeping you. And so, the rule of thumb is that each employee throws off about twice their salary in profits, and that's where profits come from. If you think about Activision, $2.60 on 770 million shares, that's $2 billion in profit. And they have 9,800 employees, 10,000 employees. I can't even do that math in my head. But they're making a lot of profit per employee. But if you break it down to each little individual division, some are really profitable. King doesn't have that many employees. Some aren't as profitable. Blizzard has a lot of employees. And operating profit, you look at the operating margin, and that just means if you do $1 of profit and you have $1 of revenue and you have 40 cents of profit, your operating margin is 40%, 40 cents over $1. If you do $1 of revenue and your profit's only 20 cents, your operating margin is 20%. Well, guess what? Guess which division at Activision has the lowest operating margin? Blizzard. Why? Because Blizzard had more employees than they needed to get that profit level to what is acceptable. And so I think that you have to right size. And I think Blizzard, I think they had grand plans. I think they expected to do a lot of great things. And I think there are some things they're doing that are great. So they will beef up the teams where they think there's real opportunity. The Diablo 4 team probably gets as many developers as they need, because that's going to be a big property. Maybe the StarCraft team doesn't get as many developers. I don't know where the cuts are coming. But look at like Destiny. When Destiny, gets put back to Bungie, and Bungie's going to take that franchise on their own, who supports Bungie inside Activision? Well, I asked the company, 60 employees were dedicated to supporting Bungie. My guess is they all got pink slips. And it's not their fault, but maybe they can go to work for Bungie. You just can't keep people employed. I guess the question, why do the CEOs and executives get to keep their bonuses? We investors want CEOs to be stewards of our capital. So at the end of the day, shareholders own the company. The CEOs don't. The CEOs are employees. And the shareholders entrust their investment to the company to manage the investment and make a profit and return that profit to the shareholders. And so you hire a CEO that manages the business and gets the balance right. We have the right number of employees and we have the right cost structure. We generate a lot of profit. And we want the management to allocate their spending to the highest profit items. So if that answer is Diablo 4 and we need another 100 developers on Diablo 4, do it, of course. If the answer is not Heroes of the Storm and we don't need as many people working on that, or Destiny is not that profitable, let's let Bungie have it back and let's get rid of the support staff, you got to do it. And it's hard. I mean, when you run a company like McDonald's, you probably can predict very accurately how many employees you need every year, because burger consumption isn't going to drop off a cliff unless we find out that, that beef causes you to die or whatever. I mean, unless there's a problem with the underlying product, you're going to have about the same demand every year and you can forecast accurately. How do you forecast demand for Anthem? How do you forecast demand for Apex Legends? How do you forecast demand for Skylanders that goes from 0 to 1 billion to 0? You're going to have employees ebb and flow. And so the point is that the CEO is hired by the shareholders to help them make as much profit as possible, and the CEO gets compensated for delivering that profit. That CEO has to bear the brunt of criticism when he makes a mistake and hires more people than he needs, or when he makes a mistake and hires fewer people than he needs. If he doesn't have enough people and he's not as profitable, shareholders are mad about that too. So I feel bad. I have been laid off. I have lost a job before. I understand how painful that is. I think that my advice to employees, to non-CEOs, don't be loyal to your company if they're not going to be loyal to you. So if you are taking a job at a company and you get a better offer, take it, because when you get the better offer, you can leave and you'll make more money and it's better for your family. You can't expect a company to take care of you for life. That's just not the way capitalism works anymore. So anyway, the answer to the question is, executives are paid to make business decisions, and layoffs are a business decision. I know it's painful, and the best companies in the world manage their payroll properly. They right size all the time. They don't have massive layoffs. They can deal with the ebbs and flows of the business. But in a business that's super predictable, it's easy to do that. In a business that's hit driven, it's really hard to do that. So you're going to get studio closures and layoffs all the time in the games business. Our next question comes from Patreon, from JPress311. Why do you believe Activision is publishing Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice? It's the next game from the developer who creates Dark Souls. Doesn't seem to fit Activision's business strategy because it's not a yearly release. Could we see more deals like this with third-party developers in an attempt to fill the void left by Destiny? I think it's interesting. Games like Dark Souls and Sekiro that come from Software, those guys are a big independent studio. I mean, they're like on the order of magnitude of like Epic when they used to make Gears of War, or Valve when they used to make Portal, or remember a game called Half-Life? Back when, remember when Valve made games? And you always used to see distribution deals. Harmonix, those are big games. So Harmonix, Rock Band, Portal, those were published by EA, if you remember. Gears, was made exclusive for Microsoft, but they need a publishing partner. And so big independent studios seek a publishing partner, and some guys like Bethesda publish themselves. That's actually more rare. Gearbox publishes through Take-Two. And obviously every deal has a different, cost benefit structure. But Sekiro is a distribution deal. And I think that Activision just decided they love this developer. Sekiro looks great. I am not a Dark Souls player. To me, sword slashing games are just lame. I didn't like Bloodborne either. I mean, I don't like sword slashers, period. But it's something that I think Activision was offered. They figured, what the hell? And they're doing the distribution deal. So it's not a publishing deal where it's a first-party published title where Activision makes all the profit. Destiny was a third-party publishing deal, but Activision funded it and got a big chunk of the profit. Sekiro, Activision, I'm sure, is making a lot less of the profit. I don't think this deal came up to fill the void left by Destiny, because I don't think that Activision knew when they signed this deal 2 years ago that they were going to jettison Destiny. I think they expected Destiny to be very successful. So I hope that's the answer. I'm not sure if I satisfied you, but that's what I know. Our next question from YouTube, from Boogaloo Jenkins. What a great name. What is the relationship between game publishers and leakers? Do publishers sometimes leak things intentionally for free publicity? And if so, do they have specific leakers they normally turn to? The only one I can think of that is recent is Apex. And Apex leaked out like Saturday before the Monday press junket. I read the MCV review of Apex the first day, which is Monday. And at the bottom of the review, it said, disclosure, the reporter received reimbursement for hotel room and airfare to Los Angeles to cover this game launch. Well, that reporter came from London. So London to LA, 10-hour flight or 11-hour flight. And I'm sure a couple $1,000s of reimbursement. That wasn't planned Sunday afternoon, after the leak. They knew they were going at least a week before, because somebody has to buy an airplane ticket and get a hotel room. And so the leak came because there were so many bona fide members of the press invited to this Monday event. I didn't go, so I don't know, 15, 20, 30 people. There were so many people invited to the Monday event. One of them told somebody, and it was Rod Bresslaw who broke it, who leaked it. One of the reporters said, I'm going to LA to see a game called Apex. I don't know. I don't think Rod broke the name Apex, but he broke that there's a battle royale coming from Respawn. Denial is bad. It's better to say, we don't know, we're not talking about it, let's talk about this. That's a better thing to say, but a lot of people interpret don't talk about it to mean lie and say it's not coming. Anyway, leaks happen because somebody is smart enough to understand that if the MCV London reporter is getting on a plane and she says to one of her friends, hey, I can't meet you this weekend because I'm flying to LA for some big EA reveal, somebody puts two and two together and the leaker says, Respawn has a game coming. And maybe the reporter said, I'm going to look at some battle royale game in Los Angeles. Well, how many studios are there in LA? And so it's either Call of Duty, which is already out, or it's Last of Us Battle Royale, which I don't think is happening, or it's whatever, Insomniac Spider-Man Battle Royale, which I don't think is happening. So it could be the leaks come like that. And Rod Bresslaw is a super smart guy. I mean, he might have just heard from a friend, I'm going to LA for a reveal, and he put two and two together. CNN was waiting outside Roger Stone's house when he got arrested by the police, and everybody wanted to know how CNN knew about that and who leaked it, from the Mueller team, from the investigative team. He was charged by the special prosecutor. And the Mueller team said, we didn't leak it. And CNN published exactly how they knew. They said they saw the Mueller investigators going into the grand jury on Thursday, and the grand jury meets on Friday, but they were going in on Thursday, and they were like, special session of the grand jury. They must be about to indict somebody. And so they went through all the lists of the people who hadn't yet been indicted, and there's Roger Stone. And so some CNN producer said, gosh, if they're about to indict somebody tomorrow and they haven't indicted Roger Stone, it must be him. What the heck? Let's call our Miami film crew and dispatch them to Fort Lauderdale or wherever he lives. And they took a chance, and they just camped outside the guy's house at 3 a.m. until the FBI showed up at 6 and busted him. That's what investigative work is. So props to Rod Bresslaw, who broke the Apex thing, because I think he probably did investigative work, put two and two together, and he got it right. And that's fun, and it's not always a leak. So the answer is, I don't know if the publishers sometimes let things leak intentionally. They probably do, and do they have specific leakers? They probably do. I don't know, but you lose credibility if you act like you discovered something and it was fed to you by the company. So I think they probably do that very seldom. Anyway, good question. Our next question from YouTube, from Roby-Wan Kenobi. I love that. Microsoft has been doing a great job with backwards compatibility on Xbox One. Do you think we'll ever get to a point where games aren't marketed for specific hardware, since they'll basically be able to live on forever? Yeah, absolutely. I think that I've been saying this for years. We're going to get games off console. So games are going to be offered to anybody with a CPU, GPU. I've said this for years. I've been saying it since early 2014. If you think about what's inside a console, it's a CPU, a GPU, and DDR RAM. There's nothing else to it. I mean, you obviously need storage. You might need a disk drive if the game comes on a disk, but you don't need anything else. So CPU, GPU, and RAM is all you really got to put together. My phone has that. Maybe not powerful enough yet to run a console game. My laptop sure as hell does. And so why can't we get that to our TV? There's something called Sonos, it'll do that. There's something called Amazon Alexa Echo, it'll do that. Apple TV will do that. A Roku box will do that. So give it time, and I'd say that time is 2019 or 2020, and Amazon's going to roll out a service and say the game's coming. Google's going to tell you it's streaming. I mean, streaming, the only problem with streaming is latency. If it's single player, then who needs special equipment? Stream it, who cares? So yeah, I think software is going to be available to everybody on every device. And I think the way you're asking the question, movies used to just be in the theater. You need a special place to go to watch a movie. Now you can watch them on your phone, and your tablet, and your laptop, and your TV. So yes, same thing for games. It's going to happen. It is essentially just a digital stream, and as long as you have the right equipment to stream that digital file, which is CPU, GPU, and DDR RAM, you will be able to play a game anyplace. So yes, I think that happens. Thank you for joining us for this week's Pachter Factor. If you are a SIFTD subscriber on Patreon, thank you so much. If you are not and you're watching us on YouTube, we ask you to do two things. Follow three of us, at Michael Pachter on Twitter, at Dinfire, and at SIFTD Games, and go to Twitch and link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and the instructions are below. That will pay us $2.50 every month that you renew it. It's a one-button click to renew it, and that will keep Shane eating macaroni and cheese